It's the busiest slow season you've ever seen at the Disneyland Resort. But while love is in the air, there are 5 different events happening all at once at Disneyland. As well as projects and construction updates, all of your ride closures and refurbishments for the month of February, and it's time to say goodbye to some old friends inside of ToonTown, some never coming back again. It's your weekly update of everything new that's happening at the Disneyland Resort. All right, because we had so much going on last week, I had to push back refurbishment, so I want to keep you updated on everything that you need to know for the month of February if you're coming out to the Disneyland Resort as far as ride attractions go on closures and refurbishments. Splash Mountain has been closed since January. It is scheduled to open up on March 7th. So if you're coming out to the resort for the entire month of February, know that Splash Mountain will be down. And also know this isn't the big overlay or re-theming of Princess and the Frog. It's just the annual refurbishment that all water attractions have to go through because water likes to destroy things. Lots of attractions' futures are tethered to the return of Fantasmic, which we're hoping is going to come back very soon. So no Sailing Ship Columbia for the month of February. And Grizzly River Run over in DCA, another water attraction, down for its annual refurbishment. They're doing a lot of work to this one. You can see that the water, because this is the wettest ride at the attraction, you can see the water really does a lot of damage. And when we zoom in here to the bridge there for the flume, you can see a lot of water staining. And also in DCA, you can see the Emotional Whirlwind is going to be down until February 10th. I know a lot of people think that this park doesn't have a lot to do for young children, so keep in mind that this is going to be one of the younger Citizens of Disneyland attractions that won't be available for the first part of this month. And then the Mark Twain is scheduled to be down pretty much the entire month of February. However, I think with Sweetheart's Night taking place several evenings, and this being one of the attractions that is a part of Sweetheart's Night, that it's not down yet, but it might go down, I'm just going to switch over the status to nobody puts Mark Twain in the corner. Absolutely love this attraction, but I tell you what, I would be willing to give up with it for a month if that meant that Fantasmic comes back, because that end scene on Fantasmic when everybody's waving to you from the Mark Twain, woo, that is some Disney magic. And I'm putting Nemo and Tarzan in the category of closed forever. Closed forever. We'll never see them again. That's actually not true. I believe that this one will probably come back right around when ToonTown closes, because that's 2 younger kid attractions that are going down. So adding something else to Fantasyland, Tomorrowland would be a smart move. But Tarzan might be closed forever. Who knows? This abruptly closed. We have no update on when it's coming back because it was a windier week out at the resort. The scrims came down. And it's just amazing that somebody somewhere knows how to just put up all that scaffolding, right? Like, that's kind of a work of art all unto its own, to know exactly how to enclose such an organic shape as Tarzan's treehouse with scaffolding that means something to somebody somewhere. So well done, scaffolding Jenga master. And then I'm going to give you a heads up on these 2. Last call, ToonTown is closing next month for over a year. So once again, if you have younger Citizens of Disneyland, Gadgets Go Coaster, as well as Roger Rabbit, you're going to want to get those last rips in, because these 2 are going to be gone for a year, as well as the land. So you've been warned. There's your refurbishment update and forecast for the month of February. Friends, I don't know if I can remember a busier off-season at the Disneyland Resort. For the entire month of February, the Disneyland Resort is celebrating Magic Key holders. Resort-wide, we are now celebrating a reimagined Black History Month under the name Soulfully. There are more Valentine treats available than a Cupid could shake an arrow at. We have the Lunar New Year celebration and food festival happening over in DCA. And just for a little something extra, ESPN is showing up next week to celebrate the Super Bowl. And it's interesting because with 5 different events going on, I wonder, is this Disney's new model of just always having a lot of things happening at the park? And if so, will it continue this way, or will they realize that offering too much means that you're kind of competing against yourself? And any other time, I would probably make a video about each one of these topics, but with all of them happening at once, you just really can't justify that amount of labor because each one of these events kind of speaks to a very different person. And at the same time, I wouldn't say any of these 5 events is a park-wide draw that every citizen of Disneyland is going to run down to the resort to celebrate. Some are perfect for some, and others will skip others. Very fun to see Disneyland Resort get so diverse with all of its different offerings and just add more than you can actually even get into. I mean, if you're a foodie, there's so many exclusive treats right now that it would be very hard to pick the ones that you want. So it's definitely interesting to see this much happening in quote unquote the slow time because it's a lot going on. I'm excited about Soulfully, and I've seen Disneyland really work hard to tell different stories from different people's perspectives and points of view, and Soulfully just embraces that and taking Black History Month and branding it as its own event that's resort-wide, also happening out at Walt Disney World. I think it's fun, and it's cool to see culture celebrated inside of Disneyland because it just makes it feel more like a real little city. And in 1955, when Walt opened up Disneyland, the idea was to bring other cultures to the people of California because back then people didn't travel as much as we do today. But the downside is I can't possibly tell you everything to experience, so I'll tell you my favorite. So my top recommendation for Soulfully is at the Hearthstone Lounge at Disney's Grand California Hotel and Spa. There's live jazz offered nightly in the hotel lobby throughout the entire month of February. This is such a chill environment. You can get a drink from a special menu enhanced with wines, beers, and spirits from Black-owned businesses, get a comfy chair, and literally just listen to a jazz band play while you're inside of Disneyland. This was the best thing that I experienced the entire visit at the park. And it's absolutely free just to go in there. You don't need a reservation. And while you're there, up and down downtown Disney, you'll see chalk artists on the sidewalks, as well as bands playing throughout downtown Disney. So it's really fun to see this resort-wide rebranding of Black History Month. I will say this though, did Disney bite off more than they can chew? Because everything that you see on the specialty menu with the little star next to it, those are items that have not shown up yet. So they're advertising that you can get cocktails from Black-owned businesses. However, more than half of those spirits aren't there yet. So let's hope that they show up soon. And those businesses get to make the most of this marketing opportunity and grow said businesses. Okay, it's Magic Key Holder Celebration Month. This one, I walked both Disneyland and Disney California Adventure in downtown Disney. I didn't really see a lot going on. Essentially, it's free merchandise, free giveaway swag. This thing drives me insane that the back circle's not bigger because every time you try to take a photo and get that gradient inside the cutout of the mouse, you can't do it because the sizing is all wrong. And then over at DCA in the little spot next to Avengers Campus that I'm fascinated with, I finally figured out what it was for. Guys, they built this for Magic Key Holder Month. That's why this little spot's here and they're finally getting to use it. And then we have Lunar New Year that is taking over a large section of the Pixar Pier Performance area and is really a fun event. The entertainment offerings are great. The character meet and greets are exciting. The food is fantastic. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get any of that food because it was jam-packed with people when I was there yesterday, but really excited to see where Lunar New Year's at, and I hope that Soulfully can find that same... Yes, Jared will be at Epcot as part of the Arts Festival. And Jared, I'm trying to talk about this. Jared, you don't watch the Super Bowl. We know that you don't know anything about the sports ball. Go on. We'll see you at Epcot, Jared. Say hi to Jared if you see him out at Epcot for the Festival of the Arts. Okay, we have ESPN in town for the Super Bowl. Now, this is an interesting thing because Disney owns ESPN and Disney owns the theme parks. So by bringing in ESPN to use Disney's California Adventure as a backdrop to say, hey, Super Bowl 56 is taking place at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles, so we need an LA backdrop. Let's use our own park. But what's great about this from sort of a money management sense, and yeah, you can see they have cleaned up the lagoon. The table, which all the fountains exist on, has been lowered below water. Still have that scaffolding out there on the back end, but this is going to be a nice backdrop. But getting back to the finances of all of this, essentially one portion of the company is able to spend money with the other portion of the company. That's what we call synergy. And therefore, by doing this inside their own park, they're able to spend money intercompany, get a better product. Yes, Jared, we know Festival of the Arts. You'll be there with exclusive prints and merchandise, celebrating Orangebird. Man, that guy. But Super Bowl 56, we will see ESPN here broadcasting daily. They'll also be here on Super Bowl Sunday doing their lead up to the big game. And there will be a free interaction that you can take place of in downtown Disney between Tortilla Joe's and the bowling alley. I've showed you that in previous episodes of Update. But then just because we need more, there's rare Valentine treats just all over the park, both parks and downtown Disney. So it's a lot to keep up with. And speaking of, there are these Sweetheart Nights, the after hours parties. So make sure you cross-reference those dates with your dates because Disneyland's going to close at 7 o'clock and you'll have to leave. And then if you go to a Disney California Adventure, it's going to be busy. And friends, I'm a completist. When I cover something, I like to give you every detail, and there's just too much for me to give you every detail. So please do your own homework, figure out which one of these events applies to you and what attracts you to these events. Is there a performance? Is there an opportunity for exclusive treats, merchandise, or the vibes that you're chasing? That's your February events update, and it's a lot. All right, friends, we have 4 construction projects that we are currently tracking at the Disneyland Resort. Let's go over to the one that probably affects you the most, which is the trams returning back to the Disneyland Resort. This was taken on last week's episode, Update 11th on January 27th. You could see that they were digging in the concrete. This used to be the area where they would bring us into the resort. Now, due to a windy week, the scrims are down and we can see that concrete work is completely done, but yet they are still putting in those isolated patches of new concrete, not repaving everything, but putting in these isolated patches that happen to line up where the trams come in and out. And I'm almost wondering where they're working right now. Could that be an area where they could pull a tram aside? The only thing I can come up with is maybe, and this is just being hopeful, some sort of new magnetic charging system, because all of these pads are put exactly where the trams start and stop. And I know that currently they fuel the trams with natural gas off the side of the tram path. Therefore, when one pulls over to refuel with natural gas, the trams are sharing the exact same pathway, which is a hassle. You can see there is a bulldozer there at the end of the cul-de-sac. So maybe it's not totally over, but having the scrims down this week, it makes me feel like this project could be wrapping up really soon. February, March, could we see trams back in time for the spring break crowds? Man, I hope so. I've missed the trams so much. Moving over to ToonTown, which will be closing next month for over a year as they redevelop the way that ToonTown runs. Notice something very new this week that got me really excited. But first, let's go back to last week so we can track the progress. So if you look at the top of that grid wall there, which is the building for Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, you can see that first they put up steel beams all composed of right angles. But then attached to the top of that is where they put that outer contour shape, which is a more organic shape, which our eyes will read as a natural organic boundary. But those shapes don't exist in architecture, so we have to fool the eye. Once that's done, they go through and apply, I believe, some sort of concrete up in there. But that concrete is put in just to fill in all of that template that they've created. And then workers have to go over it and sometimes sand it to get it smoother. And then other times they have to rough it up so that there's more of a tooth, more of a texture. So whatever adhesive or whatever they're applying to it has something to grip into. But you can see that it looks like he's going over the edges to get the edges all nice and smooth. So eventually we have what I'm pulling out with the camera right now for you to see, these nice fake organic shapes that makes ToonTown feel as if it goes on forever. So you can see they're about halfway done, but this is the area where they've poured the concrete. There is the step before where it's essentially all plastered and patched together. And now over to the right, you can see just the bare framework that this template gets applied to. It's a shame we're going to lose these updates when the land gets locked, but something else that we're going to lose is who knows what the future of Roger Rabbit is going to be. So if you're out at the park in the next month, make sure you get one of your rides in, because we don't exactly know what this is going to be when ToonTown reopens in 2023. There's been no word yet on whether it's going away, but I could see this being a little problematic for where the company is at with their storytelling and the type of brands that they're getting behind and the type of brands they're trying to get away from. But something I can almost guarantee you that is going to be going away into Yesterland is with the Jolly Trolley being removed. there's not going to be a need for this building anymore. So I'll be interested to see, do they repaint it? Do they put something else here? Because currently this is a complete waste of space. So while the walls are still down, I wanted to preserve this for a before shot. So when we're able to get in here in 2023, we have this frame of reference of what used to sit there. Oh yeah, it looks like a court building, but it's really a train house where they could take the Jolly Trolley in there, which is, we both know, is not circulating or running anymore. Here's the Jolly Trolley station. I wanted to get a whole shot, but there was a mother and her baby or infant having a moment on the bottom there, so I just kind of filmed the top of it. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what becomes of this new thoroughfare. And you have to say, that is a really, really nice sign with the initials inside of the twister there that would make a animated or toy version of a train run up and down its tracks. Another thing that will be going away, so make sure you get your last rips in, is Gadget's Go Coaster is not going to be a part of the park as long as ToonTown is down. I feel pretty confident that this one will still be here when everything comes back up. You can kind of see it in the concept artwork that was shown what the new version of ToonTown will look like. But if you enjoy this attraction or your little ones do, you got a month left to get your final rips in. Look at those folks, just getting ready to go up to the drop of a lifetime. So keep in mind, February is crunch time if you're a big ToonTown fan and you want to take in these last attractions for over a year. Goodbye. And speaking of goodbye, hey, this is where the sidewalk ends. Goodbye, old sidewalk. Hello, new entry point to the West End construction project. Friends, in what seems like a small development, but is actually kind of a big one, the sidewalk that I've been shooting these shots on is now been ripped out, and you can see they've also taken out some of the shrubs there. Now, this could mean a couple of things. It could definitely mean that they're using this as a way to bring in heavy equipment. They don't want to go through the security checkpoints here behind me that are very narrow and tapered, so they need a direct access to the construction site, and this will be where all the heavy equipment's coming. But as a Disneyland dreamer, maybe when that's all said and done, we'll finally get a flyaway bridge that will go over the top of said hotel entrance right here, and finally we will see Paradise Pier Hotel, soon to be Pixar Pier Hotel, integrated more into downtown Disney, which would be great not only for the guests that stay there, but for anybody who's just making an afternoon of downtown Disney, giving us access to more restaurants, more shopping. If this gets integrated in to the rest of downtown Disney, it won't be life-changing, but it will be fun, right? Like, more Disney is always fun for those of us that come every week. So interesting development. This parking lot right now seems pretty empty, but if you remember looking back at the footage from last week, you can see, as I predicted, that's where the team was laying out all of the construction walls that are now up over in downtown Disney. When Update was the first on this space 2 weeks ago, I predicted that this would be a staging area, and so far, 2 weeks later, that prediction is looking pretty accurate. So this is the area we've been tracking for the last 2 weeks, looking at the staging area to put together this massive construction project. Here you can see from Update 10, this is when we saw that they had taken that part of the parking lot. But now we see the fence go all the way around the entire footprint of the West End construction zone. Everything right now is at the curb. This is obviously going to be the demo process where the theater and all the shops are going to get removed. My curiosity is, does it stay inside this exact same footprint and the parking lot remains the same? Or will this expand out into the parking lot, making downtown Disney actually bigger instead of just kind of remolding it, reshaping its footprint? But you can see everything now on the backside is all fenced up. Be curious if this is going to get boarded out like they have all the boards around the customer facing side of the downtown Disney West End project. But yeah, those are all the boards that we saw them staging last week out back. And this is last week. Final shot of the AMC, Earl of Sandwich's last day full of folks, Sugar Boo loading up all their goods, and RIP Starbucks, you were good to me. And the monorail will be going down on February 14th. because of this project. They say it'll be back up March 6th. I think that might be optimistic because of how close the monorail, the construction walls are literally underneath the track. So it'll be interesting to see if that's an ambitious date or a realistic one. Moving over to our final construction project, the DVC Tower that is coming to the Disneyland Hotel. I want to keep this in mind for everybody that if you are planning a wedding this summer or if you are staying at the Disneyland Hotel, this is going to create a sizable amount of noise. So just keep that in mind because it is not a cheap place to stay. Peering through here, we can see that they are getting ready to go vertical. They have all the rebar in there, everything that is needed to start pouring the concrete. Not too much has changed from last week. It just seems like this is all the foreplay for erecting some towers. If you know what I mean. What's going to be so interesting about this project is once the DVC tower goes in the space behind me, then for the first time ever, the Disneyland Hotel will be fully boxed in with the fourth and missing tower to make this a completely encapsulated area. But right now, there's always been this opening out to the west, and now we all know that it's going to be the home of a future DVC hotel, and DVC spots out here on the West Coast are pretty hard to come by compared to our East Coast park of Walt Disney World. So yeah, this thing's going to be in high demand, and I cannot wait to see the completion, finally, after decades, of the Disneyland Hotel. There you go, friends. There's your construction update. We have progress of ToonTown, the tram path, as well as the West End design of downtown Disney and the upcoming DVC tower at the Disneyland Hotel. All right, friend, here are all the projects that we're currently tracking out at the Disneyland Resort over on Main Street. There's some scaffolding that went up. We were fortunate enough to be there on the high wind day and have the scrims taken down for us the second week in a row. Nothing really that I could tell here that was different than last week. Seems like they're kind of getting everything in place to do some painting and refurbishing of the Crystal Arcade, but love seeing these projects come together. And then over at the corner of Sunset and Hollywood in DCA, nothing new that I could detect from this project either. It seems like this is going to probably be a sidewalk or street level manicure that the street's getting because there's no sign of scaffolding or anything going vertically whatsoever. Let's hop over to the Fantasyland Theater that's going to be a part of Soulfully, which is the new and expanded celebration of Black History Month that is now resort-wide. We're seeing the Fantasyland Theater get ready for the gospel performances that will start taking place on February 19th. I believe this is going to be a weekend type event that pops up from 3 to 7 p.m. But going back to January 20th on Update 10, you could see that there were construction walls and scrims all around the Fantasyland Theater. Well, those since last week have been taken down. Last week was busy and we weren't able to get into doing our project tracker. But don't worry, the segment is back this week and I'll show you the footage that I did shoot last week. Just had to take it out for editing time. But you can see, I believe this is a video board that is up on the stage. I'm excited to see the Fantasyland Theater come back. I'm excited to see these gospel performances. I'm definitely going to come out to the park and check them out and film them and share them with each and every one of you. But yeah, we see a video board last week, but the big excitement is that the scrims were down and we can actually now follow along with the progress. Other than the exterior template, like that cutout that reveals the stage, the Mickey's Magical Map structure is completely gone. We're back to a blank stage, and this is going to be the home to a lot of entertainment this year. We got Lion King coming in the summer season, so it's fun to see what work they're doing. Everything you can see here, these are the trusses that exist up in the top of the performance area that they have lowered down to do some sort of work on. You can see that there's workers over there on the front of house building. That's where the sound engineers mix whatever it is that's happening out on the stage. Speaking of stages, over at Pixar Pier, we're going to have, this area is going to be the backdrop to the ESPN stage where they will be doing all the broadcasting for Super Bowl week that's coming up this week. So let's go back and look at last week when a lot of the fountains were sticking up out of the water. Everything now that exists on the table is the housing structure where the performance show lives on. That has been put at subterranean. It is now below the water, so we don't see any of this. creating a nice, clean backdrop for ESPN and all of the Super Bowl week performances that they're going to be doing out there from the pier. So the water area is all cleaned up, but if we come up to our current footage, we still have those platforms where workers are able to go out and eventually install the new projectors. When we're there next week, we'll check in on that. And a quick update on checking in at a quick project that happened over at Toad Manor. You could see that everything was underneath scrims that's around this chimney here. That has been done. When I zoomed in, I couldn't really tell. I mean, it looked like maybe there was a little bit of damage from the scaffolding over on Toad's Manor's roof, but the chimney looks just as chimney-ish as it always has. Love that weather vane. So that little project has come and gone. And over on the edge of the Rivers of America, we're seeing the shipping office, which I was informed by a viewer that there's a pumping station here that is a part of Fantasmic. Still have the construction walls around the shipping station. Whatever's happening here is still carrying on, and I'm assuming that this is part of Fantasmic coming back, which, wow, we have a lot to track this week on Fantasmic because they have all of these underwater staging areas fully drained out, doing whatever maintenance they need to do to bring back Fantasmic, which can't come soon enough. Really looking forward to that, although it is going to be interesting that as much as I want the show to come back, that it does also mean the bottlenecking around the Rivers of America each evening. But you can see that they have these areas drained out. All of this has to do with the different projections. You know, we have a dragon that comes out. Like, there is so much that happens. And if we look around the banks of the Rivers of America, you can see that there's these little scrimmed projects that go all the way around. I believe these are the areas where they have the various different lighting and projections and sound. There is so much that happens to transform the Rivers of America every evening into Fantasmic, and I love the mixed use of the space. I love that someone from Disney looked at this and said, you know what? We could turn this into an outdoor amphitheater. Out at Walt Disney World, Fantasmic lives in its own little amphitheater that was built just for this show. But on the West Coast, with a much, much smaller footprint for our park, everything at Disneyland has to do three things, or there's no reason to justify its existence. We see the Tom Sawyer Island getting converted over to a staging area. And the beautiful thing about Fantasmic is right when you're looking at the island, they're setting something up on the river. And when you're looking at something on the river, they're setting something up on the island. And how rude of you to just canoe right through my shot. Please, go on, canoe along. And the traffic on the Rivers of America, what is this? Normally the raft would just go a straight shot from the banks of the Rivers of America down across from Magnolia Park over to Tom Sawyer's Island. But because of all this construction, they're now toting everybody around the river and boarding on the far side of Tom Sawyer's Island. So if you want a unique experience, head over to the island and get a little bit more rafting time in. But very awesome to see all of this work going full steam over on Tom Sawyer's Island. Cannot wait to see Fantasmic come back. This nighttime transformation is one of the things that made me fall in love with Disneyland from a design and problem-solving place. Every weakness at Disneyland is turned into one of its strengths. And look who's back. That's right, the Avengers Jeep is back in town when they were out crime fighting last week. Well, they brought the Jeep right back, and there's Captain America just to give me a little nod because he knows I'm on his team. Nothing new to report with the Magic Key Terrace, the quote-unquote Club 33 for Magic Key holders that's on its way, but I'll keep you updated if I see anything happening over there. And now's a little PSA. You can tell that the people are back in the park because the trash is back in the park. And I remember doing a live stream and talking about how nice it was to see all the lagoons absent of trash. Well, the trash is there, and I just ask of you, please throw everything in a garbage can. Don't do it for me, do it for Walt. And there's a quick look at all the various projects going on around the Disneyland Resort. Buzz Lightyear's Astro Blasters at Tokyo Disneyland has announced a special addition to the attraction with Astro Hero Time. Astro Hero Time will encourage guests to improve their scores and defeat evil Emperor Zurg with even more targets to hit throughout Buzz Lightyear's Astro Blasters. What I say to you is, don't you wish this would come to Disneyland, that they would install some extra different targets just to make it a little bit more adventurous and fun for a limited time? I feel like Disney could do a lot more with adding fun new additions and limited time in-game play features to the game-oriented or game-designed attractions at the Disneyland Resort. What do you think? And something fun I spotted over at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge is Chewie and R2-D2 were hanging out underneath the Falcon. Now, it's hard to see R2 because he's small. You can kind of see him through the folks there, but he really brought in a crowd, and I'd always wondered why R2 didn't roam around this area or other droids roam around this area. It's fully enclosed. Guests can't get on the other side of the barricade. If there was ever a place to have droids that could go around on a predetermined Bluetooth track or have a cast member off-site that we can't see controlling the droids with remote control technology, this is the perfect spot to have droids roaming around. It's a smooth surface, unlike most of Galaxy's Edge, and everybody gets a turn to see them with that huge horseshoe. A few hundred people could line up on the banister. Chewie, Rey, the droids could all work their way around, and everybody could get a chance to have a little bit of Star Wars and Disney magic. Speaking of Star Wars and Disney magic, I put up a video yesterday that I would encourage you to watch. I put it up on the screen right now. It's me debating, should I go to the Star Wars Galactic Cruiser Hotel or not? Spoiler, I'm going, but let me explain to you why. Friends, thank you so much for watching this week's update. Do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, and thank you so much to Club 1313 for making today's video possible. Thank you again for watching this week's update. Show up next Friday, and we'll do it all over again.